Along the rough coastal waters of the Antrim coast in Northern Ireland sits the sleepy town of Ballygally, where James and Isabella Shaw built a castle overlooking the sea in 1625. Their dreamy lives took a turn, however, when James locked Isabella away in a tower. Distraught and unhinged, Isabella threw herself from the window, plummeting to her death. Today, the castle has been turned into a hotel, and her room sits empty to this day. Or does it? Recently, during a night at Ballygally Castle, I got curious and decided to climb the spiral staircase to Isabella's room. I was alone, and the silence was eerie. I was immediately drawn to one of the windows. While looking out into the night, goosebumps crept across my back. Suddenly, I felt bad for being drawn to this place for such a morbid reason. I hurried back down the staircase, eager to get far away. Returning to my room, I locked the door and went to sit by my own window. It was pitch black outside, but the sounds of the waves could be heard crashing against the shore as rain began to fall. It was almost peaceful as I laid down for bed. Next was a sound unlike anything I've ever heard in my life. It sounded like a train whistle combined with an air siren. I jumped out of the bed, terrified. Was it coming from the window? I walked over in the dark and looked out. The icy ocean breeze was seeping through the window pane, sending chills across my body. The rain started pounding the window, followed again by that awful howl. Some papers blew off my desk, making me jump. I stuffed a towel in the window to stop the noise, but no matter what I did, it persisted. Isabella had arrived. I could see the faint outline of the whitecaps of the waves outside, violently crashing against the sand. Turning on the lights, I spent the rest of the night away from that window. The next morning, I told my story to a friend who was staying in a room near mine. She had been too scared to go to Isabella's room and turned in early. I complained about the wild night and the noise, and she thought I was making it up. To my surprise, she said she hadn't heard a thing.
When I first started working on cruise ships, I was warned that some vessels were more haunted than others. It was speculated that this was due to former guests or crew members who passed away while on board. In any case, one of the larger ships I worked on had 2 decks dedicated to the kids' club, which was where I worked. As children would start getting picked up by their families, we would begin to close different sections and fewer staff members would be required to stay behind. On the night that I was scheduled to leave last, I was working on the lower deck of the children's area. All the kids in the upstairs section had been picked up, so my coworker closed all the rooms, locked the main entrance doors, and turned off all the lights before leaving for the night. However, about 30 minutes later, I heard footsteps coming from above. The only thing above me was the kids' facilities, which had already been closed. I thought it was odd, but figured maybe a staff member had returned to get something. As the last kid in my care was picked up, I kept hearing footsteps coming from upstairs. I went up to check, but there was no one there. Every room was still locked and all the lights were off. I told some friends later on, and they said multiple staff members had similar encounters in the same area. At that point, it was just known among everyone that there was a ghost who had made its home in that room. The creepiest occurrence was when the ship's security team called a staff member in the kids' center to ask why there was a child left unattended late one night, as they saw a kid on the live security footage alone without supervision. The entire area had already been closed for the night but was checked again due to the phone call, and it was the same scene. All the lights off, every door locked, and no children to be found.
One day, my husband and I were hiking to an abandoned lighthouse on the Oregon coast. The dedicated viewpoint was too far away, and we didn't bring a telephoto lens. So we decided to follow a lightly used path up the cliffside for a closer view. Almost immediately, both of us felt like ghosts were following us. We were hiking in midday, but the trail had lots of sections that were enclosed in tunnels of bushes and trees, making it feel much darker than it actually was. Both of us felt pretty relieved when we came closer to the lighthouse. Here, there was a clearing where foundations of old buildings used to be. We got as close to the lighthouse as we could. Cape Arago Lighthouse is on an island just offshore called Chief Island, and the footbridge had been taken out, leaving no current access to the base of the building. After a short stint of photographing the lighthouse, we wanted to turn around and get out of the area as soon as possible. We both got weird chills and feelings that we were being followed, so we were surprised to discover an old man on the trail right behind us. He made a bit of small talk and talked about how much he loved the area. He then turned around to say goodbye and walked straight into the forest and disappeared. Bertie and I were sure we would run into him on the way back to our car, but we never spotted him again. After this creepy outing, we learned that this dangerous section of the coast had seen many deaths and shipwrecks. The area was also the site of an old Native American village, where many members of the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Native Americans were buried among the trees and their ashes scattered. Our uneasy feelings were justified because it seems as if we were trespassing on sacred burial land. For us, this was a good reminder to learn about the history of the land we recreate on, and always respect the history of its people and culture when visiting.
I hope you found these stories as chilling and unsettling as I did. It's a stark reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than fiction. If you enjoyed these tales of suspense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling content. This is your host, Nicholas Black. Until next time.